In a world where storytelling and environmental advocacy intersect, Benita Sen stands out as a luminary. An acclaimed author, editor, and educator, her work spans enchanting children's literature and impactful environmental workshops. Sen's narratives not only capture young minds but also instill a deep respect for nature. As she weaves tales that inspire, educate, and entertain, we sit down with her to uncover the motivations behind her multifaceted career, her approach to blending education with storytelling, and a vision for fostering a generation that values reading and the environment in equal measure. So, Benita Sen, we are so honored to have you for this special segment of Herald Women's Voice Club. And thank you for saying a yes to us.
Soumya, I am just stunned because my first thought was somebody is pulling a fast one on me when you wrote to me. I'm that honored that you thought I should, and now that I know about your project, more so because I never thought I was important enough to interview. Time is precious for everybody, and if you're spending your time on me, wow, thank you.
Thank you once again. So, my first question to you is, what were your earliest influences or inspirations in writing for children, and how have they shaped your storytelling style?
Soumi, that's an excellent question because, like many other children's authors I've met, it was a child in our lives who triggered this. Now, I started my professional career as a features journalist. You know, here I was working on the Salal hydroelectric project and things like that, and then I realized there was a baby on the way, and I'm an only child, one of the youngest in the family, so I had almost zero experience in relating to very young children. At the same time, I realized that storytelling is a major part of childhood. So, how would I or could I at all relate to this child? That's what started off my journey as a storyteller for children.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so great. So it takes me to the next one. So your work spans a diverse range of genres. How do you navigate the transition between writing fiction, non-fiction, prose, and verse for a young audience?
Um, for me, that's the way I am, you know. Perhaps I keep wondering, is it because I'm a Piscean with two fish swimming in different opposite directions, you know? Because in growing up in Kolkata, we were fortunate to be studying in a school and growing up in an environment where we were exposed to and expected to know something of various fields. So we learned dance, we learned classical dance, we learned Robindra Songit music, that's vocal. I learned the piano. I learned embroidery and stitching at home, apart from wonderful upbringing from my parents. They invested so much in me. I had, because I couldn't draw to save my life, and we had 100 marks a year for art. So I had art teacher for some years, coming home, and he told me, I remember one tip I remember is, if you're drawing a straight line, I can't. Hold your breath, and it's easier. So
I need to try that.
yeah, try it.
Okay.
That's how, all that has come into my work today. It's bound to, if you are exposed to so many different things, it's bound to stay with you. And what stays with you will be reflected in your work some way or the other. So I did study the piano till grade 6, and I took those Trinity College exams where we had to practice with the metronome going tick tock, or then tick tick tock, tick, whatever, so the different beats stayed in your head. You had to understand what rhythm was. So very often when I write a poem, the editor might say, this doesn't really sit well, and I can read that out and it sits pretty well, because I have been taught to sort of play around, juggle different rhythms. Then I did Kathak dance, and in that the beat is so important. There also I sort of did the 6th grade, which is sort of graduating in dance, and it was tough. It wasn't easy. So if you had to change the beat of your footwork, you had to know your ear, your head. So you have to, your feet, your ears, all your faculties, your brain, they have to be tuned to the beat the tabla is giving. So I think that helped me write poetry also.
Understandable. Like somewhere or the other, these things will definitely influence you to do wonders. Okay,
Thank
so
you.
is there a moment or experience that ignited your passion for environmental issues and integrating them into your writing and workshops?
Soumya, we grew up in greener times, so my parents loved pets. They loved animals, plants. I grew up in a very tiny place, a very tiny home, but it was full of plants, and we always had, for years at least, if that's always, we had a dog. Then we rescued a neighborhood dog because because she was being thrown out of the house unceremoniously for having overslept a robbery. So the next morning they said, "What are we feeding her for?" And out she goes. And I said, "May I? I mean, she was a lovely dog. How would she live on the road?" So we have had plants, animals, in and out of our lives. Insects. My mother would show me insects, hives and nests from afar, from a safe distance, so as not to distract or alarm them, and keeping my safety in mind. When wasps flew out of the nest, I would be given the hive to take to school. And I used to be a little embarrassed because I was the only child doing all that. And because my mother thought it was very important that children see these things. There was a tailor bird, I remember. She took 3 leaves and stitched it right in front of our patio. I mean, the patio was connected to where she was, and we would sit there and watch her. She didn't mind at all. And when the babies flew out, my mother showed me the stitches, to hold the 3 leaves together. So, and of course, that nest went with me to school. Then she would treat animals and birds sick, dying, and often, sadly, they did die. She would give them, a little bit of coromin drops to keep the shocked heart going, or whatever, wrap them up in a cotton wool and keep them in a dark place in a shoebox to let them recover. Some of them flew out. So as a child, these experiences were part of my everyday life.
Okay. So you try to bring it to your workshops to make environmental education engaging and impactful for children, right? So you bring in all these elements into your work.
Thank you. Here I must mention A Tree Bagdogra. A3 is an NGO. I believe A3 are one word, A and 3. So we were living in a place called Kalimpong in the hills, and that's where every winter, the winters are long there for, you have a long school break. So what do the children do there? A3 had this environmental workshop module that I volunteered with, and that is where I learned that there can be an environmental workshop and how to go about it. I have to thank all the people associated with it. So, through games, different study modules, activities, including a trek down to the Reli River, the trek which I thought unfit me would never survive. So, you know, A3 A3 has really done so much for my environmental workshops. And then you keep adding, Soumya, you keep adding as you go on. They open your mind. And then as you read and pick up information, you think, how can I convey this to a young workshop attendee? And then you devise another game or an activity or a slideshow. And that's how.
Amazing. So, what, in your opinion, what is the role of storytelling in the holistic development of a child's language skills, including reading, writing, speaking, and listening?
I'm in this because I believed so much in storytelling as an important integral part of a child's upbringing, as I said, for my child. And I used to come back from my job in Target magazine. Where did I keep? Here we are. From 1991, my first cover story with this amazing magazine for children. I used to come back home rather tired, and then, of course, after dinner, she had to be told a story. And I would darken the room, hoping she would fall asleep fast. But then I would fall asleep most of the time, and then through my slumber, I would hear the little child saying, and then. So, that is just how these things evolve. That is how a child, her curiosity was, of course, aroused by these stories. That and then meant what happens next. I'm curious to know. Tell me more. Tell me why. Right? So, language skills. Now, yes, language skills can be storytelling is an important tool, as we are now realizing, in both STEM subjects and in language. I think I'm just so excited about NEP and NCF, that NEP 2020, because it's trying to integrate. We don't need to compartmentalize the different subjects anymore. If you're teaching math to, say, a primary student, you can do so through a rhyme or a story. If you go back especially to your traditions, you'll find our traditions are replete with such examples. There's this rhyme that my father-in-law used to say. I'll say it in Bangla and then translate it roughly. So, একজন আর তার খেঁকি কুকুর গেল মাঠে ঘাস কাটতে, দুজন গেল ঘাস কাটতে, একজন আর তার খেঁকি কুকুর গেল মাঠে ঘাস কাটতে, তিনজন গেল ঘাস কাটতে, একজন দুজন তিনজন আর তার খেঁকি কুকুর. So it's, one person went to cut the grass, one person and the yappy dog went to cut the grass. Okay, then two people went to cut the grass, 1, 2, and the yappy dog went to the field to cut the grass. So this goes on to 10. Now you can count backwards with it. So you can start with dosh jon galo khash karte.
Okay.
So that's 10 people went to cut the grass,
I
and
like
then
I like the rhyme. I will learn it.
thank you. So, you can do it in any language. Um, Language no bar when it comes to stories and rhymes. It's just that we get over our shyness. I think somewhere we're a little awkward about bringing in traditional knowledge or
Mhm.
traditional wisdom into our lessons. So if we can incorporate the two, I think that would be wonderful.
Yes, yes. I no, I really want to attend those classes of yours in
Thank you.
person.
The first time somebody wrote to me and said it was Farzana Kadir from Oxford University Press. She says, we've selected one of your stories for a textbook. And I said, textbook? I mean, the kids are going to say, "Urgh," But then I thought they had selected what was a fun story.
Mhm.
And if, as a standalone fiction piece, this book had any promise, then if it's translated to a textbook, well, it should also be interesting for children to do. Mm. I hope that has answered your question, Samya.
Yes, yes, it has. So it's actually so amazing, Benita, because you have lived through an amazing, I would say, like not everyone gets that opportunity. Good education, good environment, good family, getting all
Yes.
those, yes, all those in the right place, right time, and then you're not just stopping it there. You're still taking it forward in a different way. Like you're making sure that it is being shared to the future generation. That is what is called the actual empowerment, I feel, because you should not stop at the
No,
beginning. Like you get everything, okay, you're selfish, you keep it for yourself, and maybe you're ready to give it only to your kids. But this is not there like that. It is like sharing to a huge platform. It's truly amazing.
thank you so much. In fact, that is the word I use so often, share. I don't want anyone to have to reinvent the wheel, Soumya. The word share is so important to me. I do not believe in reinventing the wheel. So, um, the word share, it truly inspires me because we've had to learn a lot of things on our own. And I don't believe that anyone else, why just the coming generation, anyone around me needs to spend that kind of time, energy, and experience reinventing the wheel.
Mhm.
Now, knowledge shared is knowledge gained. I need, maybe I also gain something. I'm sure I do. But that is the conviction that drives me. I want to make it simpler for my students. I do take online and offline sessions once in a while, and I'm always trying to give them tips. Like I mentioned that hold your breath when you're drawing a straight line.
Yes.
So these little life hacks come in. So many of us watch these videos on life hacks,
Mhm.
Soumya, and that inspires me. Let's make life simpler, less stressful for others.
Yes, very true. We need more of you, like Benita Sen there,
Thank
telling
you.
us what exactly those simple tips we should do. Um, what happens is, as a parent, we are also stressed out, like most of the time, how to take care of the kids, what we need to do. As you said, like we don't have the patience. Like when they say, and then, okay, please, enough. Then is over for the day.
Yes.
Like it is like people like you who come forward and tell the parents, as like us, telling us like, okay, this is what you should do, this is how you do. It is really really important in this present world, and I'm really, really amazed at everything what you're saying. That's why I like, even after you saying, I have like loads to say, like every single thing. So let's go to the next question. Like, so could you
Thank you.
describe your creative process when conceptualizing a new book or workshop? How do you decide which theme or topics to explore?
Some of your workshops are easier because you're generally invited by somebody and asked to, you're given a topic and we want you to talk about this. So then you get the theme ready made on a platter and you work around it. Um, you ask who the audience is going to be and the duration, and I work to a grid. I have to have a PowerPoint presentation. I have to have my slides in order. So, because I find I don't waste time on extra, extraneous matters that don't really fit in. So I'm very focused on my workshop if I have that PowerPoint presentation. That's the easy one. Now books. If it's a piece of fiction, then there would be two ways to do it. One would, of course, be that light bulb going on in your head, ping, and this inspiration hits you. Like one of my favorite books, it's here, One Lonely Tiger. It's published by Penguin, and this I distinctly remember. We were flying over a forested area where tigers are supposed to roam or live. And some parts of it did not look as thick as I had presumed
A forest too.
a forest to be, or where, tiger habitat to be. I may be totally wrong, but that just got me thinking. And then it took me some months, in fact, that one line kept playing in my head, one lonely tiger. So this is about deforestation. This is about habitat destruction. Now, these are huge, huge, serious terms. But when I'm writing it for a child, I will try and bring in some gentle humor, not because it's funny, but just to bring the child into this concept without saying, oh, yawn. And it's just part of my writing. So it took the shape of a counting book. It went again from 1 to 2. So there's one, I think 8. When it goes to 8, and there's an elephant. The tiger is lonely, so he's trying to play with this elephant, and he tickles the elephant's ear or something, and the elephant rolls over laughing, and the tiger falls off also. And there are 8 legs in the air, So, but the elephant doesn't mind. She's a good-hearted elephant, and she says, never mind, when the tiger says, sorry. So that is one part of the fiction. Now, the other part is commission work, or work to a brief. Like, say, when you're doing, my current project has the client gives me a brief on the stories they want. So it should have these words, and it should have this concept, a father and a son talking, whatever, and a bug comes into the room, and I have to work that story around it. That I find is more challenging to execute, because I still try to keep it creative, and so that it doesn't sound too structured. It doesn't sound as if I'm working to a brief. So that is, in fact, that I must introduce you to my latest book, Solid Steps. It's actually a textbook by S. Chand, and they tried a new format for grades 1 and 2, all the lessons are around a story,
Okay.
So there are so many stories in this book, and I had to fit in concepts, words, for that vocabulary level, but they were very thorough. If the client gives you an exact brief, yes, it helps hugely. I'm also a trained teacher. I've done my B.Ed.
I think you have utilized your time doing what you love doing. People say, like, I want to follow my passion, but how far are they taking it? You are an example.
Thank you. It is so important to love what you do. In fact, I see this at my dentist's. She has this little sticker which says, I love what I do, so I do what I love. I can't remember which order it comes in, but you get the gist. Yes, however, somewhere you also have to be practical, Soumya. You have to see whether what you love to do can be monetized. Now, writing may not be for everybody who would earn more if they did an MBA or they did, and they went into the corporate world. So there, it might be the subsidiary work. It may not be the main body of their work. You get what I'm saying?
Of course.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what has been some of the most challenging aspects of writing for children, and of course, the most rewarding as well?
The challenging part is for me, it has very little to do with the writing. It is the marketing. I'm, as an introvert, I find it very difficult to connect with the prospective takers, So that is the most challenging for me. And your second question, sorry, was the most
rewarding.
rewarding. The most rewarding is meeting the young readers. So I must tell you, Soumya, once I was with another author. I was meeting this author in a cafe, and I was meeting this other author in a cafe, and it was in a mall. And at the next table, there were some children from a local school. I had placed some of my books on the table because I wanted to gift them to this author. And the children kept bending and stretching and looking at the books. So I said, would you like to read them? Because these are picture books. They could have finished them while we were having coffee. And they said, oh no, we know they're by Benita Sen, but we're just wondering which of you is Benita. And I'm like, this is... So, meeting the readers, especially the younger ones, I have met parents who have read my books and come up to me. It's very, very humbling. But meeting the readers is what keeps me going.
So, what you said, you do not like the word advice to be used. When you did send me the email, you said you do not like to use the word advice for the younger generation. So I will use another term for you. Okay, so for the aspiring writers and educators who wish to make a difference in children's literature and environmental advocacy, what is it that you, as a writer who has been in this industry for so long, would tell them what not to do?
The shoe that fits one may not fit the other. So for me, what worked was that I love writing, whether it is letters, in those ages, it's like another century, when we wrote letters, I would put so much of my creativity into every line, every sentence. So many of the people who received my letters would say, that I wrote well. Now, it never struck me then that there could be a profession as an author, but I just love writing. So maybe if you love what you do, that's half the battle won. However, you have to be practical. Please do not be like me. I find it difficult to contact publishers, editors. I walk past their stalls at book fairs because let's not, you know. So I don't think that works really. You have to go and say, hello, hi, this is what I'm writing. Would you like this? I guess that's the way to do it, because I don't know how to do that. I'm very awkward about that. So that perhaps would make your books move faster. So I have done things like this. I love doing, my book. I love doing these are journals, because for many years I used to maintain a journal, and now we know that journaling is excellent for your mental health, your peace of mind, whatever you may call it. And I find there are very few takers for journals. I've got 2 more ready and in line, but there are no takers. Now, I just backed off when the first person I approached said, no, we're not interested. I ought to have taken that manuscript from publisher to publisher.
Yes.
So that, I believe, is something you should not learn from me to do. That is something you don't do. You don't sit back and say, oh, okay, they didn't want it. Let me get on to the next project.
That's a very good piece of advice.
Thank
Even
you.
though you don't like the word advice, but I think that is a very good thing, because we have so many platforms now, social media
Yes.
platforms.
There are other unofficial ways also of keeping in touch with colleagues. Uh, I read about, say, an illustrator colleague's exhibition, and I'll say, this year I'm going to be there and I'm meeting her or him and all the others. It's going to be fun. But when the exhibition starts, I'm like, I'll go tomorrow, procrastinate. I'll go day after. I'll go on the last day. Yes. And
Of course,
so
nothing happens.
nothing happens. I've been talking to a lot of my friends, associates who are of a similar mentality. We are a little shy about going out. If I'm out, I'm fine. But invariably something comes up. So, and I don't keep in touch with colleagues. I was at the World Book Fair recently, and it was so wonderful to bump into another author, and we hugged, and I haven't seen her in years.
Okay.
So it's wonderful when that happens, but for me to plan and make it happen, that's something I don't do much, and I know I ought to.
Yeah, you can start even now.
Yeah, of course, absolutely.
Because
Yes.
I feel that, see, I feel now that I'm lucky that I have been able to come across you in my life, and I was able to understand what you exactly do. But in case you were out there, it would have been like more people would have been able to reach out. And I feel like this is the right time, and you have to start straight away. People would want to, because as I mentioned earlier, you're doing something which the present generation needs it the most. They want things to be simpler, because I personally feel they have understood everything in a very complicated way, and it is time we make them understand, like, you don't have to think complicated and live like that. Make it more simpler and you can live a beautiful life. So I feel like people like you should be coming out and telling the generation what they need to. It's not just in your area, but this part of the world as well. You should visit here and come to the schools, do workshops. We need people like you out here as well.
Thank you, Soumya. Yes, I do a number of workshops in schools on invitation, and I'm always happy to if they invite me. There again, I don't have it in me to approach the school and offer a workshop, but thankfully, I get invited to a good many workshops each year. And that is so important, as you rightly said, because I find the children are like a dry sponge. They're just waiting, you know, to for that water of inspiration to fall on them, and they're going to soak it up. I won't flatter myself saying my workshops are hugely successful. I would just say that the children are hugely receptive. And they bring out the best in me. In fact, one of the bookstore owners in Kolkata had invited me for a meeting, a discussion, and then one storytelling session on One Lonely Tiger, the book I showed you. And she said the same thing. She said, "You're a different person with children." And that I am, because their simplicity, their innocence, their curiosity, their interactiveness, if there's a word like that, um, that is just so amazing. That spurs me on to do better and better for them. They deserve it. They deserve the best I can do. I've just received the results from Children's Book Trust, Shankar Pillai's Children's Book Trust contest. And 7 of my entries have won this year. So,
Wow,
thank you.
amazing. That's
Thank you.
amazing.
Maybe if you want, the ones for the older children are profiles of, yeah, we could talk about heroes. So one is the Ramveer Tanwar. He's called the Pond Man of India.
Yes, we did an interview with him. I am not sure.
Mm. Fabulous work. I've volunteered for his urban forestry project, and we're driving there to see what they're doing. I don't know how many trees I can plant there, bend and plant, but we volunteered. And the other one was Captain Naveen Gulia. He calls himself Karm Yogi. I don't know if you know about.
No, I've not met him.
Fabulous work. I've been following him for many years. So these are the two profiles. He's a paraplegic. Mm. And he's opened this Kanya Ashram for girls. Apart from doing a lot of other good work in the neighborhood, he's settled in a Haryana village.
Okay.
So these two are, of the 7, these two have won, which for me, as you said, sharing and passing that baton on. I profile these people because I I believe firmly that young people deserve icons to look up to. They deserve to look up to role models. We did many of these people in this series of 8 books called Bright Hearts. I'm holding up the 8th and the last that I did for BPPD publishers. This is value education. And when they asked me to do this series, I said, yes, value education is so close to my heart. Because values root you to the ground. I mean, without basic values, where would we all be?
Yeah.
So, even in that, we have held up people doing commendable work, because we realize through our journey that young people need to know about good work, creditable work, some selfless work that is happening in their immediate neighborhood, not just on in another continent.
Yeah.
How do I relate to that? But Ramveer Tanwar is virtually in my backyard, Greater Noida. I'm in Noida and he's in Greater Noida. So
I
he's
connected with him because I did another article with Anand Malligawad, who's doing it in Bangalore. So it's through him I actually got to know about Ramveer, and I think um, the last edition or the before edition, I guess, of British Herald magazine, we have this article out there.
What amazing people.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, to be, when I see his videos, to be raking up all the muck from ponds where we have dumped our rubbish. You know, it's just that we didn't care any further. You know, we've dumped. So, and then we expect somebody. Afroz Shah. I've written twice about Afroz Shah cleaning up Mumbai's beaches, and now he's also been cleaning the Mithi River, and he's unstoppable, thankfully. Uh, so he and his team of volunteers, these are people who inspire me. So these are people I would love to keep talking about through my reports or the journalism part comes in. I interview them. I don't just go on the net and search for the work and write those profiles. The profiles I've written, there's one icon in the naturalist world, Dr. AJT John Singh. That also won an award. I'm waiting for that book. So he is the first person in India to have done a PhD in his field on the dhol, and he was so kind to share his time and experience with me, and his very honest comments, including what advice do you have for young people wanting to become environmentalists or field biologists. And he said, don't, till you're sure that you have good health. Such sound, practical advice. You know, I mean, how many people are ready to share that? So I've interviewed, I've got this profile ready and I'm waiting to place it. This person who has worked tirelessly to save the red panda, Dr. Sunita Pradhan. Amazing person. As a young woman, she lived for her PhD, she lived alone in the Singalila forests with the local villagers there and studying the red panda, which is hugely nocturnal, a very shy animal. So it must have taken her so much of conviction in what she does to work through that and earn her PhD on the red panda.
Amazing people around you.
Amazing.
How do you believe your volunteers' storytelling sessions, especially in hospitals and for non-profits, help in developing empathy and emotional intelligence in children?
I'll just take this as my workshops per se, whether as on invitation or as a volunteer. When children meet a person who brings them together, and then relates to them, relates to each one, I do think that it makes them realize that to have empathy is a good thing. Not sympathy, but empathy. Now, I have enjoyed all my workshops except for one, which was at a very spiffy, privileged school where they did 1 week of workshops with different authors. And by the time I had taken the stage, those children were like, give us a break. So, poor children. But except for that, the children are always happy to have a workshop or a session. And one reason I have a very sneaky feeling is that they don't have to study at that time. You know, it's a break from schoolwork. But that apart, jokes apart, I have also been to, yes, a hospital or two, and I've been to several non-profits. I've been to corporation municipal schools where children have not been exposed to such sessions, and they are so happy. Now, the hospital sessions, Soumya, are not easy for someone like me. Because you see children, the patients, who are suffering. But the biggest takeaway is when those tired eyes light up. You know, I carry a bag of stuffed toys, all sorts. Here's the sheep. And the only drawback in this is, let me warn or any other storyteller wanting to do this, these are so hugely popular, the children may not want so much to listen to your story as they want to play with them. So you have to develop a balance, make one child the custodian of that bag. And every time you mention an animal, that child brings out that animal, or something like that. Or you bring out the bag towards the end and you just choose one mascot through your story, and that mascot sits with you. And you can move it around a little. So that element is kept alive. That's the hospitals, and I would any day want to go back and repeat such sessions. One of the photographs I have sent you is from an NGO, New Delhi Children's NDCHRC Hospital and Research Center. They had a little office in Vasant Kunj, Delhi, and it was cold. It was, I think, January or February, and the cold and I don't get on too well. I'm like, ugh. So there I am in my jacket. And if you see, we're sitting in a little space outside the office where a scooter is parked. So the scooter got, of course, pride of place. And then the little space that was left after that, we sat there. And there is this little girl and her brother listening to me. Soumya, that photograph I use to look at whenever inspiration is running low for me. I often wonder how that girl has grown up, where she is now, but the spark, the magic that she sees in that story is so evident. So, as they say, a picture speaks louder than 1,000 words. Maybe, that photograph, if you could have a look at, you'll know what I'm talking about.
Sure. I would be going through all those in detail.
Hey, musical talents! Mark your calendars for the musical extravaganza. Welcome to Cadence Quest. Here are the dates you need to know to kickstart your musical journey. April 10th is your last shot to register for Cadence Quest. Send in your performance videos by April 20th. On April 30th, we unveil the talented finalists who will compete for the ultimate prize. Finally, the Cadence Quest main event on May 11th.
How do you incorporate cultural sensitivity and inclusivity in your writing and educational initiatives?
I think in India, we're blessed to have so much of a cross-reference so to say, I mean, today I'm sitting and chatting with you in Kerala. I'm from Bengal, living in the north. So we've all grown up with so many cultural influences. It's like so many streams flowing into the ocean. Um, Now I am also from a mixed family, a mixed parentage family, which helped hugely. I can understand what an Anglo-Indian society would, uh, how they would react to a certain situation, and how the Bengali side of my family would react to the same situation. So that helped me hugely. Then I'm an army wife, so I've lived in various parts across North and Central India for 30 years. And we as a family have this thing about getting into the place, getting to know the place. We would from day one hit the ground running. You know that it's going to be a short tenure of 2 years, 3 years. So you want to learn. That's your new home. You want to learn about the people, the terrain. You want to learn about the birds and animals there. I must tell you, we went to Jammu, and there was something next to where we were staying. So first evening, we just put our bags down. I mean, that was not the wisest thing to do. Please, young people, don't do that. And we walked into a place that was thickly forested, and it was becoming dusk. And when it's forested, the light goes faster. And suddenly we turned a corner, and there was something huge there. We froze, and something there froze. Then, as our vision adjusted, our eyes adjusted to that light, I realized it's a nail guy. It's not going to eat me for dinner, So we quietly backed off, and so did the nail guy. Peaceful coexistence. As we came out, we saw the board outside, and it said it was a national, it's a wildlife sanctuary. So that is, and then there, the animals and the birds don't know the boundaries. They don't know geopolitical boundaries. They don't know any other boundaries. So day and night we would have visitors. There'd be wild boar. They'd be crashing into the hedgerows at night. Fascinating. I mean, as long as you don't come in their path, it's just fascinating to listen to them, to watch them. Then the deer would come out, and of course sometimes somebody had to guide them back in because there were vehicles there. We had so many insects. I remember some tree, near our house, I never figured it out, had been host to these little creepy crawlies. I don't know if they were caterpillars, they were insects that had, they were like a flat line, and then it's like an omega, a walking omega. And they would find the tiniest cracks and get under the cracks to enter the house. And my first reaction was, who are they sharing my home? And I'm not going to kill them. So let's just sort of sweep them out and then stuff newspapers. There was no plastic in those days. So newspapers under the cracks, into the cracks. So, that has helped respect different kinds of backgrounds, different species. We had what I saw the creature first day, and I went, yikes, because it looked menacing. It was a monitor lizard, and then one local said, oh, this is very dangerous, drags children away. And then somebody else who was more clued up said, no, it's not going to do that. So you realize, if you see that creature, you step back into your own home and let it pass through your garden. I've lived with, even in Delhi, I've lived with cobras in the garden, and you learn to listen to birds, the alarm call of birds, and okay, you're not alone in the garden.
Okay.
Turn or back off, and then you see someone slithering away. I'm not the bravest, but you just learn to, live peacefully with each other.
And that is the most important thing which even UN wants us to do for the sustainable SDG goals.
Yes,
So it
yes.
brings me to the next question. So, in your personal and professional life, how do you practice sustainability and how do you encourage your readers to do the same?
So again, I'm from an era, an epoch, you could say, an age where words like thrift were the in words, It was hip to be thrifty and frugal. So we were taught to reuse those biscuit tins that stored rice for ever and a day, ever and a year, ever and a decade. If they got a little rusty, you scraped the rust off with sandpaper and then you painted them and said, "Oh, this looks smart now." You told yourself that. I don't know if it would look smart to the present generation. And you continued placing rice in them, So we did not have this throwaway culture. Therefore, even today, what you grew up with stays with you. And I do other things like now that I know so much, I've learned along life's way. As I said, from that environmental workshop I did with Atri in Kalimpong, that opened my mind's eye to finding out more about sustainability. And that sort of was my buzzword, I realized then. And it has remained my buzzword. So consciously, I have not bought a dryer. We still sun dry clothes because there's so much of sun here, solar power. So wherever one can, one tries. Now, maybe I'm not as sustainable in my lifestyle as my neighbor is. Maybe it could be that. But again, since I'm wearing those shoes and my neighbor isn't, my neighbor is wearing a different pair of shoes altogether. Yes, I will try and switch off every light when I leave the room. Yes, I will try and conserve energy. Whatever I can do, I will do. Reuse. I reuse a lot of things. I have no qualms about finding out people, going out and finding out people who will use something I don't require anymore. Now, we are fortunate to live in a housing estate where we have our minimalism group. So you can't imagine the things that people now ask if anybody else is interested in cardboard boxes, that some sweet or savory came in. And almost invariably, somebody else puts up the hand and says, "Yes, I'll take that." So this awareness has come in hugely. It's not difficult anymore for me to live the life I want to. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, yes, it does. And I'm really proud, like maybe the word sustainability as such was not prevailing in your time, but
No, it wasn't.
yeah, but you were living a sustainable life. But nowadays we have to use the word sustainability to make people aware, like, okay, this is called sustainability. Like you have to reuse, recycle, and you have to switch off these things. This you have to make them understand what is sustainability, and it has become a task from like it's like an initiative every now and then, even when in the media field. being a part of British Herald, we have to have a tab which says sustainability, and we have to speak to people who are doing that to create an awareness on the other side of the world. You understand? We have to talk to a
Absolutely.
lot of people who do these things and make the other world understand, okay, you have this person doing that, so you're supposed to do this. But earlier, it was like, as you said, it was part and parcel of your life. It was like there is no need for someone to tell you what is sustainability, right?
Not at all. It was a frugal lifestyle, Soumya, because in the 1960s, our parents were still recovering from, um, the partition and things like that. And um, so we never thought of throwing anything out till we could not use it at all. Remember that famous forward about the vest, the banyan, that becomes the dusting cloth and then gets more gray with dust, and then it becomes the floor swab or the pocha.
Yeah.
So um, that's what we have been taught to do. I'm not ashamed. Was there a point when I was a little awkward? Maybe in the late 1990s for a year or two, when people were getting, ideas about throwing out. But I remember my father making an issue of those use and throw pens, and he would say, how can I throw the pen away? I'll just go out and try and get a refill. So I learned that from a very young age. um, we've all grown up that way, and it doesn't make sense today, now that we know more about sustainability and reusing things. Even garments, as long as you know the hygiene of the wearer. When we were young, we would wear what we called hand-me-downs. So the oldest would give it to the next one, etc., etc. That was the same thing with toys. I've got this story on a rocking horse that was our family's treasure. If any of my cousins is going to watch this, they'll many hands will go up and say, that rocking horse is mine. So we height-wise, age-wise, we handed it down one to the other. The colors faded. I think the stuffing started coming out, and that's when I saw the last of it, when my younger cousin inherited it. So it's not easy. There is heartache, there is heartbreak when you part with things, but you learn to share.
Yes. That brings us to our first part, how you value sharing.
To share is one of my driving forces. Share is one of my favorite words, Soumya. As I said, if I'm doing something, I have learned to do it. I've invented this wheel, or I've learned from someone who invented the wheel. Now, either way, in fact, to me, life is like a relay race. It's not a sprint, or it's not one person running a marathon. No, it's a relay race. And if I'm holding the baton today, I need to pass it on to the next runner. So that's what, if you don't pass the baton on smoothly, it will fall. You may be disqualified from the race, or you fall back in time, you lose time. So why lose time? Make it a smooth transition. Keep sharing your experiences, your what you learned from an experience, whatever you would like others not to have to do all over again.
So is this the same thing which you would want to tell the next generation?
There are so many things. For me, one is be kind. That is what I keep trying to tell myself first before I tell anybody else. I need to be more kind, more patient, and more generous. I need to be a better person every day. And, if I lose my temper, it makes me squirm, which means I'm squirming several times a day some days. But, but jokes apart, I think the world needs a lot of kindness, a lot of team spirit. We need to get together and work together.
So, how was the feedback from your young readers influenced you throughout these years? Do you get actually feedbacks from them?
You do get some feedback, not as much as maybe I would want to. But as I told you, one memorable experience was at that coffee shop when they were looking at my book. And when I said, would you like to read the book? And they said, oh, no, we've read these books, 2 or 3 of them. And we're just wondering which of you at this table is Benita Sen. So now they generally tell you what they like. But there was one child at a workshop who told me that I had, in One Lonely Tiger, I had copied the shadow thing from Peter Pan. And I said, I hadn't read Peter Pan in like decades. And I said, are you sure? And he said, yes. So I came back and I forgot about it. And many years later, somebody asked me to abridge Peter Pan. And when I read about that shadow, this child's feedback came back to me. And I realized, no, my tiger's shadow is completely different. He plays with his shadow. And Peter Pan's shadow is a reality because some of it gets caught when he tries to jump out of the room, fly out of the room. So that was one feedback. I wish I could go back to the child and explain this difference. But all I could say is that, look, I haven't read Peter Pan in the last 30 years, I think. So it was not taken from there. It was just my working that piece up, If the tiger is so lonely, who does he have in his life? He just has himself and his shadow. So, and to him, that shadow is a real creature. He's so lonely. Other feedback is generally very flattering. So I'm like, children, you're very kind.
Okay, so I know it's been a very long interview, and I've taken a lot of your time. But from the bottom of my heart and from the entire team, we are so thankful for the wonderful opportunity you have given us to speak to you and to know what exactly you work on. And we would definitely love you to take sessions not just in Kolkata. Those people are lucky. It should be like the entire India. I would say the whole of India. That's the right word. The whole of India should experience Benita Sen.
Thank you so much, Soumya. I'm still stunned that you found me, and the research you did on my background to form these questions. My privilege, and it's really all my privilege, because Soumya, I do find even today we may talk so much about the environment, and you can quote me on this part, because many editors still are not convinced. I find fewer takers, but I'm convinced I have to travel this path. I have to profile environmentalists. I have to. So there's this tiger I hope to be writing about to bring out the fact that we need safe wildlife corridors for our animals. We don't want them to be locked in an encounter with human civilization, or to get injured or worse when they step onto a road. So these are issues, I read about them, and then I ask a lot of, many of my friends are environmentalists. I take the privilege of calling them my friends. They may just say we're connections or contacts, but I'm constantly learning from their work, their posts. I don't know if they realize how much one can learn. I still find there is, I've been told that the marketing teams don't think that environmental books will sell as well as a wacky book. So, but I could perhaps do a wacky book, but no, I really now, I know that I've come to a stage in life where I don't know how many years I'm going to be able to write, or I'd want to write. So I want to hold up these issues and these people. Days and days and days of research. You have been so thorough, so you would know that. You've dug up so much on me.
And I definitely want you to reach out to the marketing team, because you're doing an amazing work. I think, like, if they feel that your book is worth and they have made it a textbook, then it's like really worth. Why shouldn't our kids get that opportunity?
Thank you.
So thank you once again for your time